us are fascinated by prodigies and awed when a rosy-cheeked kid tosses off a concerto like it was child's play. And of course, in the case of a prodigy, it is child's play. Well, everyone knows that the music world hit the jackpot when it came to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. What you may not know is that the runner-up in the prodigy department was probably Felix Mendelssohn. In the case of Mozart, he was writing music about the time he began walking, and as a child was a phenomenal performer as well, who could read any piece perfectly at sight and became the best pianist and organist of his day. And if this wasn't enough, he was cute and adorable, and everybody probably hated him. But not all cute kids grow up to be lovable adults, and Mozart was a classic case of a beautiful duckling who turned into an ugly swan. He became a small, unattractive man who never landed an important court position at a time when royal patronage was everything. To make matters worse, he had an unbeatable knack for making enemies. The music world would not see another such amazing prodigy until the 19th century, when Mendelssohn came along. Now, you might have known that both Mozart and Mendelssohn were staggering talents, but I'll bet you didn't know that they each had stunningly talented sisters. Mozart's sister, Nan Earl, was said by some to be his equal as a performer, just as Mendelssohn's sister, Fanny, was highly admired as a pianist and composer. Fanny Mendelssohn, incidentally, married a well-known artist of the day, Wilhelm Hensel, who drew these lovely pictures of the family. And Mendelssohn himself was no slouch when it came to drawing, as you can see. Sadly, Mendelssohn and Mozart shared one other thing. Both died when they were only in their 30s. Who knows what else they might have accomplished? But at least they left us music that has remained youthful and prodigious and still enchants us today.
Recently, Beverly Sills had a chat with our soloist of the evening, Dame Kiri Te Kanawa, about the more practical aspects of performing this music, including what Mozart and singing Mozart means to a singer's vocal well-being.
People always say that Mozart is medicine for the voice, and yet, maybe because he was married to a soprano who had 2 or 3 sisters who were sopranos, maybe when you stop and think of arias with high Fs, I mean, he must have hated his sister-in-law because he wrote the Queen of the Night for her. I mean, think of giving that as a gift to anybody.
Maybe he thought she had it somewhere up there.
But everything he wrote was such a challenge, and the fact that the music is so simple, is so exposed.
Well, you can't stop thinking for a single moment when you do Mozart. There's not a moment that you can just think you can just swan along and it's all just going to come out of your mouth. It's not. And when you do the Mozart so-called repeats and returns and things, if you're not really concentrating, you can lose it. You can go to the second, you can go to the ending rather than in the middle bit. Oh. And I've done that a few times too.
What do you think is meant by the Mozart line?
It's hitting the note in the middle as far as I can make out. Each note, one after the other. Exacting and making them spin along as they were just like a string of pearls. No note is louder than the other. You can't dwell on the notes. You have to make sure you sing them in their equal timing, but also to make the phrase, to actually make it sound finally what he wanted.
Well, you certainly, your career has been a specialty from Fiordiligi to Donna Elvira.
Yeah.
You obviously
I've just loved it. It's been such a pleasure. Every time I start any rehearsals and anything I want to do, if I'm really unsure of my voice, I sing Porgi Amor every day and Archifius, which I'm actually going to sing in the program. And things like that, I just make sure my voice is in that so-called exact, in tune, really. I keep on saying to the pianist, is it in tune? Because it is a very big problem with Mozart. You've got to hit that note in the middle every time, every note. And make it sound, make it phrase too.
I always thought that you were the perfect spinto soprano. When anybody said, what does a spinto sound like? I always thought it was your quality,
Yes.
that kind of plummy, luscious sound.
I never really defined it myself. I just thought that if I could always sing Mozart and if I could always sing Strauss, that would be fine, because my darling singing teacher, Vera Roche, she said to me, you can sing anything you want, but don't try and go back and try and do Mozart and try and be agile and have your voice as light and as in control as you can do now. And she said, you can do all those roles, but just know it's going to get thicker and heavier, and eventually it's going to take its toll. So I decided to stick with Mozart and Strauss, and I was happy that way. It doesn't sort of set up fireworks every night, but it makes me feel good.
Oh, I think it sets up fireworks.
I think if you're happy in yourself with your singing and what you do, and you feel that you're being as good as you can to the composer and to music, and making very nice performances and singing the songs correctly. Because I really love to sing. That's what I really love to do. I love to be in the rehearsal situation more than anything else. The performance situation is like the end product, but the rehearsal situation with colleagues and friends, and if it happens to be an opera or concert or orchestra or whatever, that is to me the most pleasurable time, because you're actually working as a team, and then suddenly you're on stage and it's all gone.
Well, the most creative energy.
Time is that working, making the program 6 months or 2 years or 3 years ahead, and suddenly you reach the final date, you're on stage, you've got the dress, and the lights go out or something like that, and you think, no, this is not what we planned. The electricity goes off, and that's happened so many times.
I saw you most recently at the Met in Arabella, and it was a part, I think, that Strauss could have written for you. He was, of course, married to a soprano, and what I gather, a very unpleasant lady. It isn't often that sopranos are unpleasant.
Not much. We can name a few, I think.
We can name yes.
We won't do that.
Name a few, but they weren't married to Mr. Strauss. Still, in terms of physical beauty and beauty of sound that you produced, I would have thought that Arabella was sort of your centerpiece of Strauss music.
Yes, I suppose it's the part that stayed most in my voice. I could leave it for a year and just pick it up after that time, and it sort of was well situated. It wasn't. I didn't have to sort of like relearn it. Sometimes the muscles just don't quite get round the music, and I could just pick it up and sing it straight off, and even from memory too. It stayed memorized with me all the time. But as to the part, I always loved the final scene.
Most of his final scenes are just fabulous to end on.
I felt that every time there was a final scene, whether it be the Marshal walking in at that single moment, or Madeleine walking down in the so-called moonlight scene, they seemed to make you float on a cloud at a particular time.
Most of the people that I've talked to when I said we were going to have this talk today, say that they remember your Marschallin as definitive.
Some people say that, which is really nice.
Did you love her?
Yes, very much. Yes, very much. I look at life today, and I think that's very, very similar to what's going on in my life, in people's lives. Trying to hold back the clock, trying to, make a difference, trying to sort of see a younger lover and seeing herself with a younger person, and just sort of life. Life is like that.
Isn't it interesting that Strauss never wrote a great role for a male voice?
I don't know why that was. Maybe he felt that the female ruled or something. I don't know, because he was very much in love with his wife.
Yes.
And, so I think maybe that was it. Maybe he gave homage to women, to his wife, and so he felt that she ruled. And so he always made sure that the lady got the best bit. You sometimes wonder, and this is a terrible thing to say, how a man could write words for a woman like that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is. I always think, how did he do that? How did he know? How did he know the woman goes through the night sometimes when it's sleepless and she's alone, and the clocks are ticking, and they're ticking away the time, which she's trying to hold back, And I don't know how a man can write like that.
I guess that's why he was never really able to write a man's role.
Maybe.
That his
Maybe.
ability was to crawl inside the
head
and heart.
And it was amazing because it is so feminine. It's so much of what I feel, and I'm sure women who are even more sensitive and who have more tragedies in their life must feel these sort of ways that Hofmannsthal has been able to sort of bring out in that particular, in those words, just those words.
Don't you think this is a wonderful time of your life to be able to say, no, I don't want to do that. I'm having more fun doing this.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to Paris to sing. I want to go to Turkey to sing.
Well, I think a lot of the young looking, what you're saying is that the young kids today have, I think, a tougher time because they really have got to be on that treadmill of singing operas night after night after night. Not consecutively, but as you get older and as you choose what you want to do, yes, you can do the things that you want to do and the music you want to do and actually work with the people that you love.